The NBA sometimes gets lost in the sauce this time of the year. Like anytime the tournament is kind of going on, sometimes the NBA gets forgotten about, and typically we're getting into that stretch run. But now what we're getting into is actually Keith Smith, NBA, Yahoo Sports. We're getting into a week from the trade deadline, Keith, which is a little later, obviously, this year. I want to start off. The Eastern Conference is very interesting since the last couple times we've talked. I want to get your take on all that. But first, do you anticipate a busy trade deadline? Do you think next Thursday will be a flurry of stuff happening?
Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a bit between now and the deadline. I don't know that we're going to see any blockbuster moves. I think we already saw those. There were quite a bit of that in the offseason. And then the James Harden trade. So it won't be anything that approaches that level. But I do think we will see a bunch of trades, role players moving around, guys who are tiered down from star status, things like that. Because there's a lot of contenders who are trying to position themselves to really make a run at this because everyone feels like the league is pretty wide open.
Let me ask you about if you were watching that Sixers game last night and they blow a 19-point lead, but there is no Joel Embiid. Is that are you concerned watching that? And does that shape Daryl Morey's decisions at all? I know losing a 19-point lead is frustrating, especially at home. And then it's like, okay, well, you lose to the Bucks. But do you take anything from that makes you kind of formulate, hey, what we want to do in the next week?
Yeah, I think now for sure, you can't trade Embiid and just roll with Tony Bradley at the 5 because that's probably not going to be good enough. But yeah, overall, I think what you're looking at if you're Daryl Morey is you had concerns about your bench. They're still there. They need some scoring punch off that bench. I know Furkan Korkmaz did some stuff last night, but I think for the most part, they need to feel like they got to go get somebody. Shake Milton can do some good things, but another creator off the dribble, it's clear they're just not going to entrust Tyrese Maxey with that kind of role this season, and that was probably always the case with him being a rookie. But if you can get someone who can create off the bounce and then a shooter with a little bit of size, someone ideally who would be an upgrade over Mike Scott, I think that's what you're going to see Daryl Morey do, and we know for sure he's going to do something at the deadline. He's never somebody who just stands pat and sits on his hands.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think everybody is kind of anticipating what Daryl Morey might do. I mean, I feel like that is the one thing is for sure is everybody's kind of wondering what he might do. Of the teams in the East, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston, I guess you could throw into the mix there. Which Miami, who made the trade, Milwaukee made a trade yesterday for P.J. Tucker. Looks like Ariza might go to Miami. Who needs to make the move of that group in this East? Who has to add something?
I think it's probably Philadelphia. I think Boston's too far away. I don't think there's not a realistic move they can make that puts them in that group. So I think they're out of it. I think Miami maybe, but they made the Trevor Ariza move. So I think they're probably, maybe done. I don't know that they're going to do anything else big. I think they're going to be more looking towards the offseason. Milwaukee just made their move. Brooklyn already made their moves. We know they're going to add guys via buyout, very likely. So I think it's Philadelphia. I think if they want to keep pace, especially with the Nets and the Bucks, and feel like they can be in that and make this a 3-team race in the East, they need to do something, especially to upgrade the bench.
Keith Smith, Yahoo Sports, covers the NBA, and the Sixers, Keith, have been holding the Nets off. They won 6 in a row. Brooklyn won again last night for their 6th straight. Philly lost, so they are now tied. Milwaukee's won 5 in a row. The Heat were hot. They finally lost. Atlanta's starting to get a little hot. This Eastern Conference has really kind of reshaped itself in the last 2 weeks here.
Yeah, it really has. And I think what you're seeing now is, and a lot of it kind of depends on where you come in on Boston or not. And if you're still a believer, you can believe that there's 5 teams that can compete in the East. If you're out on Boston, then there's 4. Because I think Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Milwaukee at the top, those are clear. And then I think Miami has played themselves into that. And I think we're all kind of expecting they're just going to continue to round into form. So I think that's where we're at in the East. It's 3 very good teams. And then Miami is starting to look that way. And that's good to see because the other thing is I don't think it's one of those years where it's whoever comes out of the East you just view as a sacrificial lamb to the Western Conference team. because I think we have a belief that all three of those top teams, and then Miami last year was competitive in the finals. So I think we think that, they can get there, maybe even win a title.
Yeah, Keith, and it's interesting because you mentioned if you're in or out on Boston. You watch Boston a lot, obviously, and do a lot of coverage of the Celtics. Should we be in or should we be out on Boston?
Yeah, you're in on them as a playoff team. Maybe they can make things kind of interesting because no back-to-backs in the postseason. They cut the rotations down. That gets rid of some of those lower-end bench guys who are having to play too many minutes right now for the Celtics. So I think that those things will make them look like a better team come playoff time rather. But right now they're just not a very good team. Their defense is really falling off. They're really struggling on that end, and I think that's going to continue to be a major struggle for them.
We opened up in the first hour kind of talking about the viability of the Charlotte Hornets and what Ball has done there. I mean, this is the first time, I think, if you look at the playoff, they're the 5 seed, the first time in some time that they feel more than just like, hey, you're the 8 seed and you're in. Is that a team that could be a kind of a sneaky team down the stretch here?
I think they need to make a move before you really want to buy too deep into what they're doing, but they're fun, and I think the likelihood of them making a move right now is probably not very high. I think you're more likely to see them do something this summer. I think they're going to push to go bigger later in the off season, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in the summertime, and that's where I think they're going to look for front court upgrades because they've got the backcourt guys. They feel like they're pretty good on the wing. They probably had another good player in the draft maybe, and then that team's really going to take off. So I think the future is very bright for the Hornets.
Yeah, they're an interesting team to watch down the stretch here, and I want to get your opinion because last night's Sixers Twitter, which is always very toxic, if you will, started to go crazy about the fact that the Bucks were able to get PJ Tucker, and obviously that's a guy that was being mentioned with the Sixers. What do you think of adding? What does Tucker do for Milwaukee?
Yeah, he rounds out their rotation a little bit better. Their only backup big of note was Bobby Portis, so Tucker gives them another guy. He gives them somebody where they can be a little more versatile up front now, and I think that's going to be important. Offensively, we'll see. I don't think he's really kind of any upgrade over what they've already had offensively, so that part's a little different. But yeah, defensively, he's another good defender. He's another guy you can throw at. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, even from the Philly side. From the Brooklyn side, he's somebody you can put on Kevin Durant maybe and make him work a little bit. So Tucker gives them added versatility, especially if they need to downgrade and go away from Brook Lopez against some opponents. So that's what they're looking for out of him.
Yeah, Keith, I know this trade season is going to be interesting, and a lot of teams, are kind of looking to, as you mentioned, you don't know of that big blockbuster trade, but you saw, the fact that Trevor Ariza, that was another guy who hasn't played. He's kind of like the Andre Iguodala of last year who did not play, and now you throw him into the mix. I mean, is that a move that you feel has any impact in the East?
Yeah, I think it'll help the Heat. They've been kind of missing that backup forward player who can give them a little bit of range. They hoped that would be Maurice Harkless, and he just hasn't worked out for them. So Ariza comes in. That'll be the spot he'll play. That'll remove KZ Okpala likely from the rotation once Ariza's up to speed. And now Miami can feel pretty good about going 9-10 guys deep and feel good about that. Ariza, again, a little more versatility for them. They were going to struggle to guard Kevin Durant without really asking a lot of somebody like Jimmy Butler or Andre Iguodala. And in Butler's case, you need him to do so much for you offensively. So now with Ariza, you can put him on Durant, let Butler take likely James Harden, and then Kyrie Irving, mix and match on him the rest of the way. And that allows you, again, to be flexible and versatile, and that's what Miami's looking for with Trevor Ariza.
In your opinion, Keith, what's more impactful this year, the trade deadline or the buyout market?
It's the trade deadline. The buyout market rarely gives us guys who have a huge impact on what happens in the playoffs. And for every Markieff Morris that does something kind of good for a team that wins a title, you have 15 guys who don't do all that much. As somebody put it, if they're really that good, teams would find a way to trade for them. So if they're on the buyout market, they can help you, but they're probably less likely to have a very big impact in the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess it just it feels a little bit different maybe this year because of a guy like Blake Griffin who's already been bought out. You got guys of that magnitude who have already kind of hit the market. But yeah, it should be interesting to see. And then of course you look out west there, and you mentioned it. I think it's an interesting point you brought up is that I don't know that there is that clear cut, that if the Eastern Conference team is that sacrificial lamb, that Western Conference, especially without Anthony Davis, who hasn't played for quite some time, Utah, Phoenix, LA, the two LA teams are third and fourth right now. So it has really made the West kind of an interesting conversation here. Golden State not even in the playoff mix right now.
Yeah, it's the Warriors are going to have to win their way in through the play-in tournament. That's I think pretty clear. I think in the West we're getting there to about 5 or 6 teams that we feel really good are going to be in the playoffs, and then the rest are going to have to make it in through the play-in. Dallas, maybe they can crack into that top 6, but Denver's really starting to play pretty well. They're starting to push up the standings, and they look really, really good right now. They may also be a team that could have a trade in them. They've got a lot of tradable players under contracts that are pretty easily moved. So yeah, the West is good. I think the Lakers should still be the favorites, but by no means is it slam dunk. Put the Lakers in the finals. We'll see you in, I almost said June, but July this year. We'll see you there to see kind of how that goes with that. So yeah, but it's definitely interesting, that so many teams have kind of stepped forward in the West to be challengers.
Next Thursday will be the NBA trade deadline, Keith. So when Keith is back, the deadline will have happened. I guess it's 4 o'clock on Thursday next week. So something will have happened, or maybe not. We'll see. And Keith Smith will be back for that here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Keith, let's we'll chat again next week and see what happens at this deadline. Should be interesting.
All right, when we get past this, I need a full breakdown on Jalen Mills so I know what I'm expecting from my Patriots this year. Well, once we're past this trade deadline.
I'll send you a full scouting report. 55% at free safety. The other, he plays corner. He gets burnt a lot, though.
Sounds like a Belichick guy if they put him at free safety or linebacker.
Yeah, he's very versatile. He can play corner. He can play safety. He played safety a lot this past year because of basically a need situation. I mean, they had to move him back to corner because there were so many injuries, but he can play them both. For a 7th-round pick, he started on the Super Bowl team. Very underappreciated guy here, I think.
No doubt. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Y'all stay safe.